Is college a waste of time in today's world?
People should be flocking to the universities.
If anything, it's a setback.
Student debt in the US is now bigger than debt from credit cards and auto loans, and is second only to mortgages.
There's no need even to have a college degree.
Yes, college still has value in our lives.
I graduated from university at the end of 2020, and being done for about a year and a half now, I've had a lot of time to reflect on my experience and really ask, was it worth it? So if you're deciding to go to university, or maybe you're deciding if you want to stick with it, or maybe you just want to reflect on your own experience, well then, my friend, you've come to the right place. I read this book last year. In it, Naval identifies the 3 biggest questions everyone must answer. What do you want to do with your time? Who do you want to spend your time with? And where do you want to spend your time? Believe it or not, going to university plays a direct influence in your answers to these questions. First, to go to university, you need to study a particular degree, which is you basically deciding, I want to do this. The degree you pursue has a direct influence on the work you can do, which in turn limits the locations you'll be able to work. Additionally, people usually make friends through the coincidence of proximity and necessity, usually at school, university, and work. And most people meet their partners through their network of friends as well. Obviously, these are not universal sequence of events that define your entire life, and you can easily avoid this if you are intentional about your decisions. I talk about that in this video that you can watch later. But think about it this way, you're at the base of a mountain range in a national park, and you need to decide which mountain you're going to climb, because you have to pick one, unless you're going to live your entire life in a car park and go nowhere. So you take a guess. I'm going to climb this mountain because I think there'll be plenty of apples waiting for me. And away you go, walking through the forest canopy one step at a time. From that decision comes many other decisions as you encounter adjacent trails. You don't know the outcome, there's no map, all you can do is make an educated guess from the information around you. And this goes on and on as you make your way up the mountain. Maybe, just maybe, with an element of luck, the journey was a success, and you find all the apples you have ever wanted. But maybe you're like most people and have tried very, very hard to get where you are, but have struggled to find any apples at all. And so you begin to wonder, did I choose the wrong path to begin with? Feeling rather defeated, a report blares out for a nearby transponder snail. There's these guys, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, who have reached some of the highest peaks in the region, and they did it by not going through the university path. Bewildered about how this is even possible, you fly the drone you got from a magical raccoon over the path these dudes took. With a bird's eye view, you see something ignored in the reports. The bodies of millions of people who tried to do the same, but perished. And you remember a concept you once seen in a video. Yep, survivor bias. As you're about to turn the drone around, you see 2 other climbers on distant peaks. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, 2 men that did go for the university path. But even still, these 2 are rare survivors. At this point, you're lost and confused, but not ready to settle for pink ladies, so you look at your options. You could either go down the trail and start again on another path. No, that's not desirable. You've worked so hard to get where you are, and going back down means it would just be all for nothing. So you look at your second option. Continue up the mountain, hoping things improve. What I have described so far is life. It's not exclusive to going to university or not, it's any big decision that you make. You can try to optimize your chances of making good decisions by being critical of the information around you, but you can never know what the result will be. It's a risk and you have to take it because there are no safe options. All there is are the decisions that you make based off your circumstances, and you have to deal with the outcome of those decisions. So then the question becomes, how do I know if anything is worth it? Well, did you get the apples you were after? Are you at least getting closer? Did you discover something else that has become much more valuable than any apple could be? But in order to answer any of these questions, you kind of have to know what apples you're after, and that's the benefit of taking a gap year. Giving yourself the space and freedom to try different things, discover what you like and what you dislike, what your values are and what's important to you. But like everything, doing so takes a lot of effort. It'd be really easy to take a gap year and not think about any of these things. So when the year is up, you're no closer to answering anything. But if we pause for a moment and think about How is it even possible for you to have a gap year? Take, for example, a common activity people do on a gap year, traveling. Traveling to different countries at scale, in time and cost-effective ways was only made possible through the invention of commercial jets. Consider for a moment how such a thing could ever be made. We need the raw materials for the body, wings, engine and electrical components. So mining the ore out to the earth, which then goes through a process of refinement and purifications. The plane needs fuel, so oil must be drilled out of the earth, processed into jet fuel. Purified metals need to be manufactured into electrical components for lighting and controls. You need all the plastics and upholstery to furnish the cabins, which is further of materials and processing. You have to be able to transport all the materials to a single location, which means an established supply chain network must exist. So roads, ships, trucks, which is more raw materials and fuel. You need trade agreements between companies and countries. All these people who are working in all these industries need to be fed, sheltered and clothed. So food production at scale, housing at scale, clothes manufacturing at scale, which all have their own machines and products that need raw materials and fuel to be produced and operated. All these people need to be able to travel, so more roads and more vehicles. Not to mention that the passengers' income need to be high enough to afford a plane ticket in the first place, otherwise none of it's possible, which means jobs have to be high, people have to be paid well, and businesses have to be solving problems. I could keep going, but you probably get the idea. A lot of things have to happen for you to be able to step on a flight. Obviously all of this isn't happening so you can go on a gap year. It's happening all the time, every second of every day. All the things we have today are the result of people working very hard. What I'm trying to say here is that we have to thank the economy. One of the most important metrics of a healthy economy is the education level of its people. Without education, innovation and technology grinds to a halt. And the quality of our lives not only stagnate, but regress. So we have to thank the institutions that have educated people. Primary schools, secondary schools, university, community colleges, families all play a role in developing an educated society. Take China, for example. In 2017, 8 million students graduated from Chinese universities, with the bulk being in technical degrees. This is 10 times more than what it was in 1997, and is almost double what the USA produced in the same year. Despite this influx of graduates, the unemployment rate has remained fairly constant. With such a surge in education within the Chinese workforce, it's not a surprise to see the Chinese economy grow into a significant international power. So if your goal is to progress education level, to inspire greater innovation and technologies that will help us solve world problems and increase the quality of life, then of course, university is worth it. As the demand to go to universities increase, we start to see a problem. Universities are like businesses, and the products they sell to their students is of course their degrees. And what's the best way to draw customers to your business and away from your competitors? Have better marketing.
Place the order now.
Do you have the power?
I'm no expert marketer, but I know that effective marketing has to play up the problem that their product solves. In the case of universities, most people think the problem is unemployment, or a path to higher paying jobs for a more secure and better life. And this is true at the surface level, but if we dig deeper, we can see it's so much more than that. The true problem universities solve is helping students become the best possible versions of themselves. And they achieve this through enabling the students to think, speak, and write. Because that's how we solve problems. That's how we make the world better for ourselves and the people around us. Instead, they focus their marketing on what Jordan Peterson describes as Pleasure Island. If we put this into context of a mountain and apple analogy, universities are like an apple farm at the base of the mountain, and their marketing strategy is luring you in with the best apples possible. Which is problematic because it can be misleading and guide students to making decisions that aren't in their best interests. For example, a common apple used by universities is rankings and prestige. Who doesn't want to go to the best university in their state, country, or world? Since the demand is there and the supply is low, tuition fees can be outrageous, leading to insane amounts of student debt for domestic students, and the benefit of going to a prestige school is actually not all that clear. I'll give you an example from my own life. When I was deciding to go to university, I was trying to decide between the University of New South Wales and the University of Newcastle. There is a considerable difference between the rankings of these two universities. Here is the debt I incurred at Newcastle, and this is the debt I would have incurred if I went to New South Wales. It's almost double the amount. In 2020, 74.4% of Newcastle graduates had found full-time work within 4 months of graduating, whereas it was 76.2% of graduates for New South Wales. So clearly paying more money to go to a more prestigious university doesn't equate to better job prospects. There's an incredible amount of different degrees people can study, and not all of them lead to the high probability of getting a job. Just look at these two charts. You can pause here if you would like. What this tells us is what people are studying in universities and how many of them find work. This is current data for Australia, but this could also be true for your country as well. What this means is there's an increasing amount of graduates leaving the apple farm with the expectation of finding a job, but don't.
Where did you think you'd be at this point in your life?
Hopefully working for a robotics company or an engineering company, starting my life as an adult, but instead I'm unemployed and living with my parents.
What's it like to say that?
Depressing.
Therefore, the outcome does not justify the time or the money spent within university. You can look at the data and find degrees that are actually useful for society, increasing your chances of success. But the truth is, there's a very real possibility that you'll find yourself on the slope of that mountain, lost and confused, not knowing where to go, feeling like the ground is moving beneath your feet, and even the trees are swinging at you. And honestly, I feel for any of you guys who are feeling that way. It's shit. And it's not just a matter of you simply not working hard enough either. However, none of that changes the risk that you take when you go to university. There's no guarantees in life, and university is no different. Which is why I think it's so important to want to go to university for some deep internal motivation to become something, not for the apples. And when 55% of young Australians go to university, I wonder how many of them are there for the apples. I wasn't one of them. I was focused on my own climb, not the apples they were selling. I wanted to learn about something I was interested in, and something I thought would be useful knowledge to have. It was partway through my degree I began to understand that the changes that mass, energy, and information undergo as they move through processes is applicable to most things in the world. And it was exciting to recognize how these fundamental processes manifest in nearly everything that we do. I can honestly say that university was worth it for me. It's been worth the 5 years and $40,000 in debt. It's a decision I'll make every time, because it helped me develop a better understanding of the world. That's not to say that the degree didn't have its flaws, believe me, it did. The fact that I say that it has been worth it has little to do with the degree and almost everything to do with me. To me, university was like the game Tumba. You're put on rails, and as long as you don't fall out of the cart and get to the end before your cement hardens, you'll finish with a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. I think getting the degree is relatively easy. What's much harder is developing an intuitive understanding of the concepts you have learnt and be able to apply them in a variety of areas. And that has much more to do with your character than your degree. With all that being said, here's my advice as a recent graduate. First, don't be lured in by apples. Second, only take a gap year if you're actually going to expand your experiences, knowledge, and think deeply about your next steps. Third, the workforce is changing. We talked about not being able to find a job even with a degree, but we haven't talked about automation and artificial intelligence. The fact is, many jobs with degrees and without degrees are going to be replaced with automatic processes and robots. I don't know what the answer to that problem is, but like I said before, there are no safe options. Which is why I think it's important to understand what the current and future economic demands are and where they intersect with your interests, then look at your potential pathways. University may be the best option for some and completely useless for others. Work out what skills you need and identify places where they can be developed. Fourth, never stop learning. The quality of information we can get online now is insane. So perhaps at some stage down the line, the university system will be replaced by online learning, rendering the accreditation from universities no longer important.
We're trying to build a platform that would help people use their online time more productively and keep track of it. So imagine that everything that you taught yourself on YouTube could be accredited, and you could be rewarded for that across time, and maybe guided through it so that you could track your educational progress along a whole wide range of potential learning opportunities.
Too often we talk about things like it's this or it's this. Reality is almost never like that. It's usually all of it. It all has its place and uses. use all the resources around you to get up that mountain. 5th, deal with the outcome of any decision that you make. And if you find yourself on a path that results in no apples, you can draw upon all the skills you have learnt and all the confidence you have built within yourself to go back down, continue up, traverse across to another path, or even forge your own. So you might be thinking, why do we do all this? Maybe it's for the pursuit of happiness. I made this video here to find out, and I'm sure you'll like it. But thank you for being here. Bye.